Sometimes it hits you out of nowhere. You're just living your life, doing something normal, and then suddenly, this sharp, quiet voice in your head says something brutal. I hate myself. You don't even know where it came from. It's not like you did something horrible. But there it is, like background noise that won't go away. And maybe you try to brush it off, distract yourself, or drown it in work, noise, or fake positivity. But it stays. It loops. It grows. And part of you starts to wonder if it's right. If maybe there really is something wrong with you. If maybe you're just broken in some unfixable way. Most people don't talk about it. No one posts a selfie saying, self-hate kinda heavy today. But the truth is, more people deal with it than you think. It's quiet, it's shameful, and it's powerful. So where does it come from? Why would your brain turn against you? And how do you even begin to fix something that feels this deep? Self-hate doesn't just appear out of thin air. It's built, piece by piece, usually starting when you're young. Maybe it came from the way someone talked to you, or didn't talk to you. Maybe it was a parent who only gave you love when you were perfect, or a teacher who made you feel small for messing up. Or maybe no one said anything cruel at all, but you learned to see yourself through the eyes of people who didn't really see you. The brain is built to learn patterns, and if you grew up thinking you're only good when you achieve, or only lovable when you're useful, you start to see yourself not as a person, but as a performance. Every mistake feels like proof. Every flaw feels like failure. You build a version of you that's hard, distant, and never enough. And that version becomes the one running the show. But here's the truth. The voice that says, I hate myself, isn't actually yours. It's an echo of something or someone else. But if that voice isn't really yours, why does it feel so real? Because your brain doesn't just remember facts, it remembers feelings. Emotional memories get stored deep, and if you've felt worthless, rejected, or invisible over and over, your mind builds a kind of emotional truth from it. Even if the world around you changes, that emotional truth stays locked in. You might be doing fine on the outside, working, socializing, maybe even smiling. But deep down, that old belief is still running quietly underneath. I'm not good enough. So when things go wrong, when you mess up, or even when nothing's wrong at all, that belief comes up like muscle memory. It's not logic, it's wiring. And that wiring tells you that you deserve this pain, that hating yourself is just being honest. But it's not honesty, it's repetition. And repetition can be unlearned, not easily, not overnight, but it's possible. Unlearning that voice doesn't start with motivation. It starts with awareness. You have to notice it. Not just hear it, but really recognize when it shows up, what triggers it, what it says, how your body feels when it talks. That's the first shift, making the unconscious pattern conscious. Because when you notice it, you create a gap. And in that gap, there's choice. Most of the time, we don't choose self-hate. We just fall into it like a reflex. But the moment you catch that voice and name it, oh, this is that old script again, you weaken its grip. You start to separate you from it. And from there, you can begin to ask new questions. Not, what's wrong with me, but who taught me this? Not, why can't I be better? But, what would I say to someone else feeling this way? That's not just mental gymnastics, that's neuroplasticity in action, and it's how real change starts. But here's where it gets tricky. Even when you start noticing the voice, part of you might still believe it's helping. Like maybe if you're hard on yourself, you'll finally change. Maybe the guilt will keep you disciplined. Maybe the shame will keep you humble. That belief, that self-hate equals self-improvement, is one of the biggest lies your mind can sell you. Because all it really does is drain your energy and shrink your self-worth. Growth doesn't come from fear, it comes from safety, from feeling seen, supported, and stable enough to try something new, even if you fail. Self-compassion isn't weakness, it's fuel. Studies show that people who treat themselves with kindness after failure are more likely to bounce back, stay motivated, and actually improve. But you can't just flip a switch. Compassion takes practice, and for people who've hated themselves for years, it can feel fake at first. But fake kindness is still better than real cruelty. So how do you actually start practicing that kind of kindness? It's not about repeating affirmations you don't believe. It's about shifting how you respond in small, crucial moments. Like when you make a mistake, Instead of spiraling into, I'm such an idiot, pause and ask, what would I say to a friend who did this? That one question can interrupt years of self-judgment. Or when you feel overwhelmed, instead of pushing harder, try saying, I'm allowed to rest. These aren't cheesy lines, they're rewiring statements. Each one challenges the old script and plants something new. And yeah, at first it might feel weird. You'll want to snap back to criticism because that's what feels familiar. But familiar isn't the same as true. And the more you repeat these new responses, with patience, not pressure, the more your inner voice starts to shift. Slowly, quietly, but undeniably. One of the most powerful things you'll realize on this journey is that self-hate was never your fault. But healing is your responsibility. Not because you deserve blame, but because you deserve better. And the truth is, no one else can rewire that voice for you. People can support you. They can remind you of your worth. But until you believe it, even just a little, the old voice will always have the final word. That's why this work isn't about becoming someone new. It's about coming back to the version of you that existed before the shame, before the conditions, before you were taught you had to earn your worth. That version is still there. Maybe quiet, maybe scared, but not gone. And every time you show up with curiosity instead of criticism, every time you respond with care instead of contempt, you get closer. You get stronger. You start to build a relationship with yourself that's not built on fear, but on truth. You don't need to love yourself perfectly. You don't need to wake up every day feeling confident or healed or whole. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop abandoning yourself when you're in pain, to stop believing that your value disappears the moment you mess up. Healing isn't loud. It's not some big emotional breakthrough. It's subtle. It's the choice to pause before the spiral, to breathe through the urge to attack yourself, to show up again and again, even when it's messy, especially when it's messy. And maybe some days, all you can do is say, I'm still here. That's enough. Because the moment you stop waging war against yourself, you create space for something better. Not perfection, but peace. And the truth is, peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from no longer believing you were broken in the first place.